7 days a week.
Your brother dying?
Yeah, my brother is liking it, man. He's getting in good shape too.
He looks fantastic.
He's doing so good. He's I mean, shit. He's lost. He used to weigh 260, and I think at some point here he's going to make it a goal to get down to 160.
Really? How tall is he?
He's 5 feet tall. I think he's 5'5" or something, 5'6".
Yeah, 160 be nice. Man.
Be lean as a motherfucker.
Yeah.
All right, Mikey. We're gonna get to the bottom of this today. We're gonna figure out what the hell's going on with you.
Nice. I'd like to get to the bottom of what's going on with me.
So since we last met,
Yeah.
I was on the show with you and Dr. Drew.
Uh-huh.
And that was a lot of fun. I, for some reason, ended up putting on various hats that day.
Yeah. I'm sorry to disappoint you by just wearing a plain baseball cap today. I
know.
Yeah, something more exotic.
You had that fancy, like Indiana Jones looking thing going on.
That's exactly what it was.
That was a beauty.
I'm a man of adventure.
But since that time, you landed a pretty healthy gig where you're on TV all the time. What's going on with some of this stuff?
I've been doing Access Hollywood a lot, and it's fun. I mean, it's a great way to get paid money to be myself, which is,
I want to be on there. Can they help me out? Can I be on there?
Dude, I can so easily make that happen.
Isn't it hard? Like when I see these newscasters and stuff, when I see these guys on TV, I'm always like, man, there's dolphins out there. That's crazy. We're in Malibu, and I'm just looking out at the ocean and see dolphins.
It's crazy how often all along like South Los Angeles County beaches,
you see them popping up.
The dolphins do not want to be strangers. They love to just kind of peek up and say hello.
They love to check it out. They love to take a breath. But yeah, it seems like it would be. I mean, for you, you've been at it for a long time, and you've been on camera before. But it seems like it's kind of tough. Don't you have somebody talking in your ear?
Yeah, you got the IFB. Yeah.
And do you need to read at the same time that you're talking? Or
the good thing about Access Hollywood, as opposed to, because look, no, I'm not going to BS you. A lot of those entertainment news shows, it's kind of the same thing. It's derivative. But the cool part about Access Hollywood, which I think is why they asked me to be a part of it, is that it's live, and so they want to encourage discussion and stuff. But
I see.
So you kind of cheat to the teleprompter every once in a while. They'll have you read. And coming up, more on Justin Bieber's engagement, but that you gotta kind of wind it back into doing the off the cuff stuff. But that to me is easier, But I have a little cheat code. I spent my entire adult life on radio.
Yeah.
So reading from a teleprompter is like, that's the stuff where I have to really practice.
Who's been your mentors in some of that?
Kevin and Bean here in Los Angeles, for sure. They gave me a job. I mean, they hired me, and they trusted me to be on the air when I had no...
They shouldn't have.
Yeah, I didn't have the ability. I didn't have the credentials. I didn't have the experience. And so it was a trial by fire at first, but I have absolutely, number one, them to thank. As far as like people I watched and was a fan of that I definitely looked to as mentors was Stern, Letterman, and it sounds silly, but Oprah too.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing with me is like, I'm not an expert in anything. I'm really not. And I don't have a tremendous amount of knowledge to draw from when I say anything. But if I could figure out a way to be myself and be authentic and be as much of that as possible, that's my skill set, and that's what I got to ride into the sunset. So, media's littered with a bunch of people playing a character,
right?
And a lot of people are really, really good at it, but I realized very quickly, and I tried and I failed. That's not for me,
How do you control yourself with like not being inappropriate, like being, especially when you're on TV and you're live?
I don't.
I mean,
I don't.
Or you just kind of let it go here and there.
Yeah, getting back to being myself. There's plenty of times where I'll say things where I go, "Oops."
Yeah.
But if as long as it's not asinine. I mean, or
have you heard about any of that? It's like, have you said something on TV yet where they're bleeped. Like, hey,
only 2 people have been
bad
bleeped.
Timing.
Only 2 people have been bleeped on Dancing with the Stars, and myself and Penn Jillette. And I was just getting done dancing poorly, of course. And my upcoming dance was the jive. And Tom Bergeron is, and this is a live show. He's like, and coming up, Mike Catherwood and Lacey Schwimmer dance the jive. Mike, what do you know about the jive? Are you nervous? And I was like, all I know is that the jive is the language that black people talked on Airplane.
Yeah, because of the movie Airplane.
Yeah, and I was like, I know nothing about the jive except that's the language that black people spoke on Airplane. And Bergeron's hiding a laugh. There's kind of this evident dead silence.
I speak jive.
And they go to commercial, and I was told very quickly, like, that wasn't appropriate. They bleeped it out of the East Coast feed.
Sometimes there's just no way to explain it to people. Like, it's a joke. There's a movie Airplane. I wasn't talking about that's how black people talk on an airplane. It's an old movie. Sorry, the joke didn't work.
I was fine with it because I got zero negative feedback, like from actual social justice warriors or actual African Americans. No one was truly offended by it, which is I'll take that any day. I never want to accidentally hurt someone's feelings. I never want to purposely hurt anybody's feelings, but you can get down a real bad road if you say something that is even mistakenly offensive. You can get in a terrible place. I got in a bad spot with that. I was on E! News, and Adam Lambert, I don't know if you know who that is. He was on American Idol. And he's just wildly talented guy. I mean, incredible singer, but he's like flamboyantly gay. He's not gay. He's like an evangelist for the gay movement.
Gotcha.
And he assaulted a paparazzi. He punched a guy. And the chick I'm hosting with is like, Adam Lambert faces some jail time if he's convicted. And I was like, well, from what I know about Adam Lambert, that might not be all that bad for him.
right.
Just stupid. It's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
But man, there was a lot of gay rights activists that did not like that. I mean, I still every once in a while get, this was 2010, and I still get negative tweets and stuff.
It's hard to have that perspective sometimes because you probably have pretty thick skin. Is there... I mean, probably
depends.
When you're watching TV, you're probably not too offended by stuff you see.
Oh no! In that regard, I have super thick skin. I'm very, very hard to offend.
It's hard to kind of put yourself sometimes in somebody else's shoes. Like, what's your ethnicity?
Mexican. I'm half white, half Mexican.
You're half and half.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't know he's Mexican. We got to discontinue this.
I understand. Please, if you want me to mow your lawn, I can just go take care of that, and we can have this podcast.
This podcast really went downhill. It's hard to sometimes have perspective, into like, I may not be sensitive to something that I may say to you kidding around, but there's kind of those guys that are dickheads that do that day in and day out. And you're like, I get it. I'm Mexican. Like, can we just fucking get on, or somebody being short or somebody being fat, like they're the fat guys. There's always a fat joke, or you're acting whatever, like you're acting gay or whatever the thing is that they want to throw at you. They do it over and over again. Sometimes they just do it too much.
And it's also really hard if you grew up in a culture where busting balls is part of the course, right. I've had problems with that in my professional life. I've had problems with that in my personal life. My wife and I have, just a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
But I've had a talking to. I've had a couple talking tos where
I'm not one of your guy friends.
Exactly.
I've had that before too.
And her and her female buddies. Like I remember one time my wife's female friend was over, and I put my balls in her hair and told her, I was like, "You got gum in your hair. Oh my God, what happened?" And she reached back. And it was my ballsinis. That did not go over well with my wife. That did not go. Her friend was fine with it.
That's great.
My wife was not happy. But my point being that if you grew up in an environment where that just that just happens. It's sometimes it's hard to separate yourself from that when you go out into normal person life.
Right.
And transferring over from like party culture, jock culture, then morning radio culture, and then trying to introduce myself into everyone else's normal social circles. Man, I fuck up a lot.
Where'd you grow up?
L.A. right here, like the East Side,
Damn.
Pasadena area. Yeah.
And what sports did you play as a kid?
Football, baseball, soccer, basketball. I was a big, but
all the way
mainly baseball and football. I loved it.
Yeah.
Those were the ones that, I'm 5'10" and not necessarily that coordinated. So, no, I'm coordinated. I'm not graceful. So,
right.
Basketball was never something I was,
right,
too great at. But football and baseball, I loved it, man. Loved it.
It must be pretty competitive here in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why in football and in baseball as well, they have like Texas and California versus the rest of the country.
Yeah, right.
It's true. Like it's there's numbers, and the weather just suits to really like high level athletics.
Were there things in your high school career, I guess we'll call it, that were kind of telling of you later on becoming an entertainer? Like, were you involved in different, were you involved in any plays or?
Yeah, no, looking back
like
on it,
or
looking
class
back
clown
on it,
or whatever.
Absolutely. I was literally the class clown in, the yearbook when they do all the,
right,
the voting. I was most comical. And, but looking back on it, there was a lot that was telling that I would have a career, or at least a potential career in the entertainment industry, but I didn't know that, nor did I ever think that was a reality. I was such a screw up, and just a profound drug addict that dude, like a union construction gig was absolute dream come true. If I were to hope for something that could potentially, give me a semblance of a nice life, that was all I could ever think of.
Something that would kind of whip you into shape.
Yeah, and I knew I couldn't be like a fireman because I was too much of a screw up, and that sounded appealing. Something like that, something physical.
Military. You ever kind of think about that route?
I definitely did. But my dad was longtime military and pretty well decorated. Worked at the Pentagon for 14, 15 years. And his father, pretty well decorated naval. My dad's dad was career military in the Navy.
Shit.
So if me being in the military not only was that not a problem, that would be fantastic, but they would want me to go in as an officer. Like me going in as a grunt, that wasn't an option.
So you'd go to school first or something like that.
And that's the big rub, is that there's no way in hell I could get into college. That just wasn't even on the table for a guy like me, a student like myself. So I kind of fell into it, by this set of circumstances. I fell into getting this career in the entertainment industry. And a lot of it was macho bullshit, too. When I was 17, I would have really liked being in the school plays. I would have really liked joining a band and stuff. But I was such a meathead at my heart. I was so macho and that it didn't even apply. Yeah,
at that age, it's like you're so scared to try stuff that's outside of your bubble because you're kind of comfortable in that. I mean, it happens as adults too, but as you get older and older, you just care less and less. You're less afraid to take some chances, or at least that's how my life has gone.
I was scared that my friends would make fun of me. That was it. That was it. And
you're going to be in a play?
It didn't fit the mold of
what anymore.
What I thought I was, and the reality, I didn't give any effort into actually examining what I really wanted. There was no introspection. It was just what's going to look cool.
Are your parents still in the area?
Yeah. Still married, still in the area, yeah.
Still live in L.A. What was kind of the disconnect between your parents and you getting in trouble? You got in trouble at a young age?
Yeah. The disconnect was look, my mom grew up. When I say poor, I mean like really most Americans don't understand that level of poor. East LA Mexican immigrant family with 6 sisters, just not knowing how they're going to get their next meal poor.
Yeah, wow.
And so I grew up in a we weren't the Trumps or anything, but I grew up in a relatively opulent beautiful, kind of normal, secluded suburb here in Los Angeles. So I think she just, as long as I was shielded from gang life, the trappings of poverty, she felt like everything was okay. And I was a student athlete. I was a terrible student, but I had friends, and I had a seemingly nice social life, and so she was content. She was always just content.
She's pretty happy and proud of where you were at.
Right. My father, very type A, very hardworking, very ambitious, a great father, but physically was absent. He, because of his job, was gone 200 some days out of the year. You know, he was traveling like crazy. So he physically wasn't able to see that I just spent every waking moment, that I wasn't at practice or at school. I was in my bedroom taking bong rips and doing lines. You know, he had no clue because he physically wasn't there. And so before anyone could kind of nip it in the bud, it was already too late.
That's crazy. How did, I mean, and what age are we talking about?
I started drinking probably at a normal age, breaking into mom and dad's liquor cabinet like freshman year. But it was by the time I was probably between sophomore and junior year, I was getting into the hard stuff.
You know, that kind of stuff really interests me. I got, 2 kids. I have a 14-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. It's so hard to think about when they were babies, holding them, in your arms, and then thinking about them as an adult, having an act like that where they're getting into drinking and drugs and doing things that are, just reckless or unsafe or whatever. It's crazy because you spend so much of your life trying to communicate with them like that's not safe. That's not a good idea. Even in terms of their food. You had pizza earlier today. Let's make a better choice. You had soda earlier. Let's not have the ice cream and the dessert. You're just always trying to kind of steer them away from danger. Don't play in the road. Just keep your fingers out of the socket, the electrical sockets and things like that. And then so, when you get to like that adolescent age, it's just crazy to kind of think about like, oh man, like my son's 14 right now. Maybe he doesn't really care that much to do those things, but maybe his friends do, or maybe he does. Like, I don't, you don't really, how would I know? Because he's certainly not going to communicate. He's not going to be like, Dad, you know what I was thinking about the other day? That bottle of vodka that's in the freezer, I was going to hammer that. It's not going to be something he's going to mention.
Sure.
Do you think there could have been anything different that was done, or do you think it just kind of had to play out that way?
I am like in a lab. If you invent an addict, I'm that guy. Both sides of my family, terrible alcoholism. I'm Irish Mexican.
Did you know that when you were that age, when you were young, or not really?
I knew my mom's dad did because he never drank like at parties and stuff. And my dad's and my family in general is big into wine and fine liquor. They don't shelter me from that. They were always very social. And on my mom's side, on my Mexican side, I had such a huge family. There was like a small weekend get together barbecue was 40 people.
Wow.
That was just common place. There was always drinking around, and I never kind of got why my grandpa didn't drink, but at a very early age they were open. Like, no, grandpa stopped drinking in in the 70s.
Right.
And so I kind of knew that was in my blood, but I never. You don't pay it any mind at 13. You're like, okay, yeah, my grandpa's an alcoholic. Big deal. I'm still going to go see Pantera this weekend, and you better believe I'm going to, drink a 40. But I'm actually happy that it played out the way it did, because by the time I was 20, I hit my rock bottom when I was 21. And that sounds terrible, and it was. But if I had a buffer, if I was 45 and had money and had some ability to really live a life and concurrently do drugs and drink, I would have driven myself much closer to the grave, because I was confronted with my rock bottom very quickly. I had no money. I was a pile of shit. I was sleeping on friends' couches. I was a squatter, and it made me very quickly realize, like, oh no, there's an issue. Not only is there an issue, there's an issue that can't be avoided, and you have to make that decision right now. There's a crossroads you're at. and you have to take one side. There, if like I said, if I could somehow keep going financially, socially, there's no telling how bad it could have gotten.
What was the rock bottom?
I was at. It's funny.
Usually there's kind of more than one too, right? Like usually there's like 3 or 4 occurrences depending on the person.
I was at
but there's a bottom
a point where I had been when I moved to the East Coast when I was like 19, and I was chasing my rock star dreams. I was in a band at the time, and I was moving to the East Coast because at that time, talking like 2000, 99, 2000.
That's when I got married, 2000.
Nice. Yeah. Look at you. Still going strong, too.
Yeah.
That was right when like the Northeast punk scene was exploding. There was all these amazing bands, and the scene was vibrant, so I just up and went. And I started very quickly. I was waking up in an ambulance or at the hospital so much that it was not even
that's
special.
Crazy.
Because I was always a stimulant addict. I was always into meth and coke, always. And I loved it. I still have like this almost like visceral passion.
Have you talked to Dr. Drew about some of these things before?
Oh yeah.
I know you guys are close and stuff.
Chit chat.
Is there a pattern, with people that like, do people kind of have this stuff in their blood? Because I feel like
no, the genetic component is huge. Because
I feel like it's in my blood. Like, but I've never messed with any recreationals, but the tiny amount of experience that I have with them, even just something like Vicodin, I've taken it before, and my oldest brother, I was telling him, I was like, that just, it didn't make me sleepy or tired. It wired me, and I got tons of work done. And I was like, and I fucking loved it. But the next day, I kind of crashed off of it.
Well, just knowing the little bit of discussion that, Chris and I have had about it, it's definitely in your blood.
Yeah. And Chris has been an addict as well. And my brother, Mike, he's the one who pointed it out to me. He's like, dude, it'd just be easier if you just threw that bottle away and just forgot it ever existed. Because he's like, to me, that's telling you that the only way to feel that same way again is to take more of that shit.
That's true.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
Fuck.
For anyone listening that it just sounds so foreign and ridiculous. And I understand that. I'm not, so many addicts I meet in recovery, they get indignant to the fact that like the world doesn't understand. I was like, of course they don't understand. It's
this
insane.
Is really important to talk about, because as we were talking about in the beginning, we're talking about perspective.
Right.
And I may say something racial, I may say something that offends somebody, but I don't have the correct perspective on it.
Right.
And when you're coming from that one side, even when you are coming from that one side, you have to be careful that you're not so one-sided that it's bleeding into the beliefs and values that you have, which you're seeing happen all the time in politics right now, and just values that people have. People went all crazy. I had a Donald Trump hat on one day. I took a picture. I was just trying to get a funny picture of me tanning by my pool, and people just
you can't even do it.
It turned me into a racist. It turned me into all kinds of things.
There's no room for nuance, man. Abortion's always been the best example for me. I'm pro-choice, but it bothers me so much that people have either the take that you're a sinner and you're murdering babies, or no, abortion's totally fine. It's totally cool, and every woman should have the opportunity to do it without a doubt, and it's not even, she shouldn't even question it. It's like, no, abortion's gnarly. Can both sides agree, like, this is a very, very
it's confusing.
serious issue, and both sides have such blind disrespect for the other that it bothers me, but it plays out in so many other ways.
No one's ever been able to really make sense of it.
No, and
one way or the other.
and taking these extreme stances is so celebrated now that's the real problem. It's there's no support or endorsement for people having a very comprehensive, nuanced view on things.
Right.
You've got to go.
Well, they'll take such a hard stance against, like, let's say something like violence, that they'll become violent.
Right.
And they'll cause problems. And it's like, wait a second, this is like kind of what you're in protest of, and you're kind of causing it.
Yeah, the people at a gun control rally who are beating people with batons,
100%.
But my rock bottom, I was, like I said, I was getting rushed to the hospital all the time. I had crash cars, DUIs, felony arrests, you name it. I had wildly disappointed my family to the point that I'd seen my parents cry in my face. I had no more friends. Every single one of my real friends had distanced themselves from me. I think, which was a testament to how much they were my friend. You know, to kind of be an accomplice to all this would have really been kind of spineless. But I had all these things, all these consequences right in my face. Kept going and going and going, and then my real rock bottom, or that moment of awakening, was this innocuous time. I was in a motel, middle of the day, smoking crack, back here in Los Angeles, and I was sitting by myself. I remember Jenny Jones or something, some daytime talk show was on. I'm sitting there smoking rocks, and there was a dresser with a mirror, and I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and this mirror reflected back at me. And then from here, I cannot remember it in my own perspective, in my own, like in a first person view. I almost see it as like a closed circuit camera looking down on me. But out of nowhere, I had no impetus to this. There was nothing that provoked me. I got up and walked over to the nightstand by the bed, and I found the Yellow Pages, and I looked up a recovery center, and I asked if they had beds, and they did, and that was the last time I used drugs or alcohol. I was totally nothing. Like I said, there was no major consequence that was confronting me. I wasn't. The judge didn't do it. I wasn't going to go to jail. I wasn't in the hospital. I was just enjoying another day of rock cocaine and just something inside. That was 2003. That was the last time. Oh, 2002.
I'm sure that at this point you probably helped a lot of people, especially through your podcast and through your voice on the radio and stuff. In your effort to help people, has the stories been similar where that person has to come to the realization, that person has to make that decision?
Yeah, that's absolutely vital. I mean, and I'm not saying that judges shouldn't send people to recovery. I'm not saying that parents shouldn't force their kids by any means necessary to get into treatment. But what I am saying is that until that man or woman makes a decision on their own, it's utterly futile. I mean, there's just nothing matters. Zero consequences actually affect the addict until he or she makes that decision on their own.
Yeah, with Chris, I was talking with him about some different people that he's tried to help, and he's just like, yeah, man, unfortunately, he's like, that guy's just not, he's just not really ready.
Maybe someday. There's you can never give up hope.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob Forrest, who does Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew, does the This Life podcast with Dr. Drew. A lot of people may recognize him. He's the guy who wears the silly hats, and he was the worst drug addict on the planet. I mean, to the point that guys like Anthony Kiedis and Flea and Nikki Sixx, they're like, oh no, we can't party with you. Yeah. You're too crazy.
You're too nuts.
He went to treatment 24 times.
Wow.
And just one time, he was awash. Dr. Drew himself admits I had completely given up on Bob Forrest. He was one of those guys that we're just, some people are never going to get treatment. They're going to die because, make no mistake, it's a fatal disease. But Bob Forrest, after his 24th time in treatment, something took. So you can never give up hope, but at the same time, you can't waste time trying to force it upon someone because it's not going to happen.
Does the addiction need to be fed with something different?
It did for a while. I've been sober 16 years, and I spent 7 of them I wasn't drinking or using, but I was feeding the disease by steroids, exercise, impulsive shopping. I wasn't tending to the disease, even though I was clean. Yeah, I wasn't doing the work. I just wasn't doing it.
And even just some of your actions, right? Sometimes they can be like, just maybe like, not communicating with somebody that you're going to be late for something, or that you can't show up. Like, some of those things kind of play into it. Isn't that some of the stuff they kind of teach you and things like that?
Take
more ownership.
Honesty of it is that's the thing. And I have a problem with that now, and I'm getting better about it. But this is a silly instance is like, my wife, she's like, "Where'd you get that gum?" I was like, "I have some in my car." And she's like, "Can I have some?" I was like, "Nah, you don't want it." And I was gonna say, like, make up some bullshit. Oh, it's caffeinated gum or something. And I was like, wait, I had to in that moment circle back. I was like, well, it's nicotine gum. You're not gonna want any,
Right.
And the reason, it's not like she's not my mom. I don't know why I would even think to, but that was the addict inside. I just immediately wanted to lie and get out of it, and so the aspect of honesty is such a huge component, because it's much more easy to be dishonest to yourself than to other people. It's pretty unless you're a total pile. It's relatively easy to just tell the truth to other people all the time. It's really difficult to be honest with yourself.
How did your parents play into your recovery, or did they?
Huge. I mean, having the support, and they never did the, you caused us so much pain and sorrow. It was always just like, whatever you need to get you clean, we'll help you. And I certainly didn't have the money to go into a recovery center, so they fronted the bill. And I do not take that for granted. I think about it all the time. I live in Venice Beach, California, which is one of the most, just absolutely disheartening homeless problems, and probably in the U.S. Just a terrible homeless situation in Venice. And every time I walk by a guy who's asking for a couple bucks, I think to myself, the only thing that separates me from you is the zip code I grew up in. That's it. Because if I grew up in a place where financially it just wasn't, recovery wasn't, real recovery wasn't an option, I'd be dead.
Or even if your mom had to pick up a job, and wasn't around, then your mom and your dad weren't around when you were a kid.
Absolutely.
You could be dead or on the street or whatever.
I don't in any way take it for granted. The absolute factor of luck. People try to pretend like, oh, there's no such. No. Being born, in America, B, in a family that is, a solid nuclear family, C, with dispensable income, I hit the gold mine, and I don't take that for granted.
I always think it's interesting how much you'd love America when you go away from it. I'm sure you've traveled a lot, and you come back, you're like, man, I can't wait to. Other places in the world are beautiful too.
Absolutely.
There's no place like home.
I'm an unashamed patriot that loves America, and I have no problem saying that it still, to me, is the greatest country on the planet.
Yeah.
But I hate when people who they fall into that category and they echo that sentiment. Then they're like, fuck France.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, no, France,
Yeah.
Britain, Ireland, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Are awesome. They're super awesome. I just know from traveling to other places that aren't, fill in the blank developed country. We have it. Being in certain places in South America, going to Saudi Arabia when I was a little kid, dude. That's my thing. Is that Israel does the mandatory military service.
Yeah,
and I don't think that we necessarily need that here in the U.S. But what I do think we need is that the day you turn 18, you should be forced to spend a year in somewhere shitty, because far too many young kids, especially, don't really understand. And that's not to say that America is without flaw. It's definitely a flawed place, and we can all do better. But it's pretty awesome if you've ever experienced a country where
even a week.
Don't have, let's settle on a month. Let's say nice compromise.
Yeah, grab the kid's cell phone, throw it in the fucking ocean, and have them go learn a trade or do something different. Right?
Yep.
It would be it'd be a little wild, and you have people up in arms about it, but it could put some hair on people's chests.
Yeah, and it's very easy right now to bemoan the current state of America. Everyone loves to crap on America.
Right.
I try to be as objective as possible about the president, but there's a lot to be upset about. But at the same time, you really don't know how lucky you are and what rights were afforded. That is just out of this world crazy in other parts of the world, most parts of the world.
How has fitness played into some of this for you?
It's been a great help. It's hurt me, like I alluded to earlier. There was times where I wouldn't go out on a date with my former wife,
because some body image issues.
It was
and
leg day, and I wouldn't spend time with my family. I was and crippling body image issues. I still, to this day, I was at the beach yesterday. I did not take my shirt off. The idea, I can't think of any reasonable purpose for me showing my body to other people because I feel like my skin's on fire.
You mentioned steroids, and a lot of times people they just kind of write them off a little bit as like it's its own separate thing. Mm-hmm. But there's still a drug. It's still something that's addicting. How could you not be addicted to, especially when you're into training?
You're addicted to the results for sure.
Yeah, you're addicted to the results tremendously, and they also they're going to affect your brain in some fashion, in some way. They're not like mind altering necessarily.
No.
That doesn't really work that way, but they're going to affect your makeup and your well-being over a period of time. And I think a lot of people have a tendency to kind of brush that off to the side. How have you kind of dealt with some of that?
The fallout from getting clean off of steroids was hard, man, because I had to make heads or tails of losing my gains, and then also just
were you a lot bigger?
Yeah, when I was like actively in bodybuilding, I was off season like 220.
And did you compete in bodybuilding?
Yeah, I did.
Wow, cool.
I did. And the hard part was getting fatter and not having ephedrine and clenbuterol, getting smaller and not having a solid testosterone profile. And you could do all the post-cycle therapy you want. It's just not the same. And you're never going to be the same. You're not even going to be back to normal. And that was the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around, And I'm not anti-steroids. I always take questions from kids who are like, I'm thinking about doing my first cycle. I was like, well, think long and hard. If you're not getting a paycheck for your body, it might not necessarily be the best thing to do. But if you're going to do it, don't just eat D-ball. Have the patience to really understand what you're doing and do it right.
Have a plan. Have some sort of understanding of it.
Sure.
Yeah, people don't realize that a lot of the negative side effects too, they happen usually when you come off of them.
Yeah.
Did you get depressed and things like that too?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I suffer from depression as is, but man, when my hormones went in the tank, that was dark. That was really dark. I remember the honeymoon of my first marriage was like, that was my new sober, that was my new sober rock bottom because I just felt skinny and fat at the same time.
Yeah.
I was so overwhelmingly depressed, and I just didn't know. I was at a point in my career too where, I was making $21,000 a year working 3 jobs, just trying to make ends meet.
Right.
Because I had this dream of making it in radio, but at the time I was just editing tape and trying to make the Kevin and Bean show run a little better. It's not like I had some glorious radio career to speak of. So at that point, it was by the grace of God that I pulled through that. Even more so than my rock bottom from actual narcotics, because as I told you, it wasn't as if I had this amazing epiphany. I had to dig deep. Something took over me, and that happened almost by happenstance.
With the steroids in particular, where you were like, hey, you know what? This is still part of a lie that you're living. Like this is you're telling people you're sober, you're all excited about it, and you're helping other people, and you're really not that sober.
Right. I mean, that would say, and it wasn't. I don't look at steroids in and of themselves as something that is not part of sobriety. But the way I was using them was not part of real sobriety. It was not. It was not part of recovery.
What about cigarettes and caffeine and things like that?
Hardest thing for me to quit was smoking and chewing tobacco, by far. As far as like physical addiction,
right?
That was the toughest thing.
It's hard to clear everything out. I mean, even for people that aren't addicts.
Yeah.
If you were to say to somebody, hey, you know what? I want you to take a week off of your coffee.
Yeah.
They'd be like, what?
Yeah, that's not happening for me. That's just not gonna. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, what do you mean? And actually, it's not a fun thing to try to go through. No. I've done it several times, and it is nice that when you go back to it, you get the effect of it again. But caffeine will almost overwhelm you when you haven't had it in a while. That scares me. The idea of getting because it's really all I got left as far as like my buzz, and I love caffeine. Right.
The idea scares me, to take a week
What about some other things that are like borderline? What about like, I mean, I would consider borderline. Maybe you don't consider like smoking a joint or kratom or some of these things.
Smoking a joint's out. I mean, if I hit a joint and got stoned, even though
it's going to lead you down.
I'm very pro weed, and for people who are not addicts, I'm a big I'm an evangelist for legalization and the use of marijuana.
Yeah, you smell it all over the place here in Los Angeles, especially in Venice.
It's true. It's like
it's everywhere.
The other day, a kid skateboarded past my house, and I was blown away because he was smoking a cigarette. Like my brain automatically, I was like, "Oh, he's smoking a joint." And then when he went by and it was a cigarette, I was like, "What? That doesn't make any sense."
Yeah, what are you from the 80s?
Yeah, he's so old school. But no, I can't. Yeah, I can't smoke weed for sure. Anything truly inebriating, and kratom to me is a tough one because if it prevents people from taking painkillers, believe me, that's amazing. But we can't pretend that it's completely harmless,
right?
Because it's not. It's not a harmless drug.
And I think that's what people do with steroids too.
Yeah,
is they're and some people do TRT and whatever, and it's like, it's causing some huge changes to your body.
Yeah, some
of which are great and some of which are not. It's pretty simple.
Anything that you can't live without, they can't live normally without. That's something to be concerned.
Yeah, because it's something you're really holding on to.
Right.
So how did you transition from coming through all this and then getting into radio? Like, were you always obsessed with radio? Were you always obsessed with that format?
I mean, I was as a fan, but I never at all thought that.
I mean, I was a huge Howard Stern fan, but I never thought of myself having a microphone or anything like that.
Same here. I mean, I was a daily listener, and I thought it was cool.
Those original shows, man, they're the best.
But I never thought to myself that was something I would do. I was an aspiring rock star musician, and when I moved back to LA and I got clean, I just started getting any job because I have no skills and I had no education. So I started just get any job I could. I was a custodian at a prosthetics lab, and I was a night watchman at a rehearsal studio. And then I saw that there was a job opening at KROQ, which is the alternative rock station here in LA. But just entry level, like loading boxes and stuff. And I was like, all right.
What year was that?
2000, end of 2002. And so
my wife worked for AM/FM radio, and she worked for a long time for Westwood One.
Yeah, that was the syndicator for Loveline for all the years that we did it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll get a job there. It's better. I'd rather load boxes and roll up my sleeves and do manual labor at KROQ than some other place. It'll be fun. I could, fool around. So I got a job there, entry-level job. And I started prank calling the morning show, and I started just doing antics around the station, just being a jackass in general. And after about 8 months of doing that, Kevin and Bean hired me, just hope to have around on the show to be their antics guy. And I started to do assistant production stuff, just like I said, editing tape, organizing all the archive shows, pretty much just like a utility guy, whatever I could do.
Yeah.
And after about another 6 months of doing that, they started to allow me to infrequently get on the air. And about a year or so of me having the ability to get on the air, they hired me as a part of the show as a personality, and that was 2004.
What a cool progression.
Yeah.
Because if somebody was like, hey, you want to intern over here? You might have been like, nah. Like, you might not have been, but it was kind of your own choice. You're like, it'd be kind of cool to poke around that place, see what it's like. And you had a pretty long duration of getting your feet wet and getting on the air and everything.
Yeah. It was, and most people in radio have to work in small markets and really bite and claw their way to working in the Los Angeles market. For me, it was just, it happened so indirectly. It's strange. I could have never have planned to do it the way I did it and then followed through, because I never would have thought that I was up to it. I never would have, like you said, if I were to get a job interning and then maybe get a night shift and then parlay that into a broadcasting career, I never would have thought that I could be up to doing something like that. My self-image would be get in the way. So it was almost like this was the only way it could have happened. And
how did you rebuild yourself? Because it's really easy to talk yourself out of things. Was it because everything was a kind of a slow progression? Was it because everything took time and allowed you to grow your own personal development, was able to catch up with whatever was going on career-wise?
Yeah, exactly. Like it happened so by accident that I was just banging back and forth from all these weird little positions, and I'd finally found something that people told me I was good at. I'd never ever experienced that. Like people are like, "Hey, that was really funny what you did the other." I'd get tweets and something and be like, "Oh, those man on the street interviews you did at the Hollywood."
You didn't
Walk
get
of
that
Fame."
from sports when you were a kid?
I did, but I was never. I did it as a little kid.
Right. It just didn't feel the same.
Right. It just and also, I was more worried about winning. I never thought because I was never like a Division I or even like a small school caliber athlete. So to me, I didn't look at like, hey, the coach saying nice play. That felt good. Don't get me wrong, but I was just I was happy to hang out with my buddies and fuck up the other team. That was the only I was just
and
happy.
Now as a radio personality, you're getting that individual feedback.
Yeah.
Of like, I really liked what you said.
And something
really
that was above and
did.
beyond a fleeting experience. I knew that high school football, although I loved it, it was fleeting. I was like, I was going to graduate. And it's like, yeah, well, what good does this mean in the grand scheme of things that, I made a nice hit. Okay, but that's in the ethos and it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I now had something like a real, almost a career where people were saying, you can do this. This is something you're good at and you can do it. And I was overwhelmed by that. And then I got laser focused because of it. I got laser focused. I started practicing being on the air. I would do air checks.
Just at home and in the car and stuff?
I would go to KROQ when I wasn't working and do air checks. And when Corolla was still hosting Loveline, I would specifically go edit Kevin and Bean stuff while Corolla and Drew were in studio and just watch Adam. And so I finally found something in my life that I got into.
Just studying it all the time and learning and trying to grow. And then what was the progression from there? What started?
I started working on the Kevin and Bean show as an on-air personality, and in about 2006-07, Adam Carolla left Loveline to do his own
do nothing. Everybody was like, "Yeah, what the fuck's he gonna do?" And he says, "I'm gonna start a podcast." People are like, "What is that?"
He had his own morning radio show,
right?
That went on to be at a defunct station. They changed format, so Adam went into doing podcasting. But he left Loveline, and he was there for so long, and he really was the guy. Obviously, Drew had been there since the beginning, but Adam's the one who made it what it is today,
right?
And I
who is the first guy to do it? Like, is it you hear different things with different people, but I heard like Tom Green was one of the first podcasts. Remember the comedian Tom Green?
Yeah, oh yeah.
He was like one of the first podcasts, but Dr. Drew and some of these other personalities were.
I think Adam certainly was the ground floor. I know Kevin Smith was really, really early on. Is like the podcast world. Tom Green.
Yeah.
Joe
now look at it.
I think Rogan started pretty early on too.
Did he really?
Yeah, he was probably in the first wave of like guys.
Yeah. Now look at it. There's millions of them.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Everyone has one.
There's so much information out there. It's crazy to think the information of, like going back like 100 years, the information that somebody might learn in the course of 10 years is now happening like in a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depending on how much you can consume and how much you can really retain, right?
And the passing on of information. I mean,
yeah.
You really had to rely on like the elders in your tribe not that long ago to kind of impart information. And who knows how that got manipulated and changed when they play that game of telephone and go from person to person. Now information is pipelined right into you from the source. Everyone has the ability. And then it's rebroadcast and tweeted about. And
Joe Rogan has a good bit where he talks about where we're only like 3 people ago. The United States was starting.
Yeah.
He's like, people live to be like 100. He's like, the country is like 300 years old. He's like, it doesn't date back that far. It's pretty crazy. It
is crazy to think that 3 generations of your family were there for the beginning of something.
Right.
Because in comparison to other powerful countries, You think about China or
Right.
England or something. It's like, well, no, you're awash in a sea of history.
Yeah.
America really is not that old, you know.
Yeah, they've been around certainly a lot longer than we have. So you mentioned fitness being a little bit negative, but I imagine there must have been a lot of positive to kind of keep you going and to keep you focused on.
Well,
on
and it
goals
was,
and stuff.
it's the only thing in my life I've ever discovered, and I don't even mean fitness overall. I mean specifically weight training. It's the only thing I've ever found that there's no outside factors to molest the system. In jiu-jitsu, there's always going to be a guy who's better than me, and he's going to be able to tap me. No matter how much I've been training, no matter how much better I've gotten, there's always going to be people that are going to come around and tap me. Or I didn't have a good meal, and I'm gonna crash, and I'm gonna I'm gonna get beat up. And same goes for Muay Thai or whatever I go into. In my professional career, I may nail an audition. I may nail it. I may be the best person for that job, but they may have some
maybe somebody's brother or cousin or whatever, and they get the role.
Some agent, needs a favor to get his other client involved in a separate project. If this person comes in, there may be some diversity clause. They want to hire someone. They want to hire a woman. They want to hire someone who's Asian. Who knows? There's a million factors, and it's not just based on how hard I work and how good I am. In weight training, that's all there is to it. If I keep coming back, I can deadlift 450 right now. If I eat right, if I stay on a program and with incremental gains, there's nothing preventing me. Zero other outside factors that prevent me from getting stronger. There's nothing. And it was the most cut and dry, clear-cut way to see self-improvement,
What do you attach to more? Are you attached more to, kind of lifting those heavier weights? Does that feel the best for you? Or
Absolutely.
are you more attached to like what you see in the mirror?
I had to stop doing it because, I still lift, but I had to stop going to try to be like you, because
to stop setting world records every time you set foot in the gym.
Right. Or just to try to even get to be a high level power lifter, because that's what I want to do. But it doesn't make for a very appealing television presence.
Right.
Having traps to your ears doesn't work out well when you want to sit down.
You can't turn to talk to the other host.
Yeah, and just overall quality of life for me, I feel like I'm a little lighter and I'm a little bit more mobile.
You hit the nail on the head with quality of life. When I do these heavy workouts, which I don't do the same amount anymore. So I've never felt better in my whole life. I feel amazing since I've dropped out the real heavy singles. Mm-hmm. I'll still do a heavy single, but it will be at like 85 or 90%. It'll be like heavy enough, and I'll be like, well, it's good. The old me would go 105% until I like hurt myself. And then the next day, I can't get out of bed. I can't go up and down the stairs. Right. You just tend to move. You tend to move really slow, and it's like, man, that's a shit way to move around. And I think that in my powerlifting career, I could have probably, and it's easy to say now, but I could have probably backed off a pinch on some of that and still would have been just as strong.
Yeah, but then you don't get the emotional, psychological benefit,
right?
Which is what we are also also what we're chasing. Because that, to me, it was nice when I got my blue belt. I remember like feeling so accomplished when I started to really, because I'm terrified of the ocean. So when I catch waves, I feel so accomplished. But nothing feels better than setting a PR.
There's no way
I feel
I'm scared of the ocean too. There's no way I would go in there. I mean, I don't mind going in and like, getting wet a little bit, but I'm not going to try to swim in that fucking thing.
Paddling out and surfing to me is the most, when I really feel like there's personal growth there, that's where I find it. Yeah, out of anything else in the world, because it's pretty easy. I got to be honest. I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, but it's pretty easy to be a good husband and father for me. Like, I really enjoy spending time with my wife. I love spending time with my daughter. It's not that hard to just be that guy. So that's the most important thing in my life. But it comes pretty naturally to me. I'm terrified of getting out there. And every single time I surf,
there's a lot of weird shit in the ocean.
Every single time I surf, 100% of the time, I have at least one time where I go, well, it's been a good run. I'm dead. I'm going to drown to death and I'm going to die.
Have you gotten stuck out there before?
Yeah. I've gotten, well, at least I got stuck in the middle, what they call stuck in the middle, where I'm too shallow to be beyond the point where the waves are crashing on you, and the tide is the riptide's pulling you out. So waves are just crashing on top of you over and over again. And I get stuck in there, and it's terrifying. It's the worst.
And you got to try to figure out a way to get back.
Yeah. So I go, do I get on my board and try to let them crash on top of me and push me in? Do I try to surf or swim out beyond them? And then, but you get stuck in there, and that's the worst.
You probably know Tito Raymond, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Over at Gold's Gym. He got stuck out there not too long ago, and he's super fit. He's somebody that goes in the ocean all the time. It almost just doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's the ocean, and it's just going to take you wherever it wants.
Yeah. Some real ocean men and women. They're not going to get stuck, but it truly doesn't matter how fit you are. You just got to have a real relationship. It's just like anything. Some people, if you're raised in Malibu or Hawaii and you've just been doing it since you were a little kid, some people, they have such a strong relationship with the ocean, it's not a factor. But for the most part, it doesn't. I don't care how good a swimmer you are. I don't care how buff you are. I don't care how tough you are. It's a beast that needs to be respected.
Do you think that you can build a body that you're proud of? Do you think that you have the ability, over the next couple months or next few years to be happy and proud of, just like, hey, I'm going to whip my shirt off and I feel really good with
to be honest,
the way I'm at?
I'd like to say yes, but
right.
When I was competing, I would be 180 and shredded to the bone. I mean, absolutely veins in my abs. Now, granted, I was, on tons of Winstrol and yeah, but I would be. Just
doesn't make you a bad person.
No, but I was shredded, and I still. I remember, like,
how much do you weigh now?
175.
And then what's the best shape you've been in the last 5 years or so? Has it been around this body weight?
Best overall shape, probably right now.
Good.
Yeah, best overall shape. I feel like I don't gas when I train martial arts. I'm capable of training pretty hard and keeping up. I'm strong relative to my body weight. I'm certainly not impressing anybody with my numbers, but and I look okay. I don't look in the mirror and see a puffy pile of shit.
What would be wrong with trying to do a bodybuilding show or set up like a photo shoot or something? Would that make you go too far back the other way? Like, might get too obsessive? Might be too weird?
I think focusing so much on my appearance would not be
healthy for
me right now.
Overall.
Yeah. I need something where. And also, it is, I don't want to say it's easier for me because it's a tremendous amount of hard work, but it's something naturally that comes easier to me than, say, surfing or jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai. So I see, like, there's an old African proverb that a sailor was never made on calm seas. And hitting the gym, putting food in Tupperware, it doesn't bother me. I'm into it. I love going to the gym and lifting weights. I love it. I love getting up early in the morning and doing some cardio. So for me, like, I kind of have been searching out more of the things that it's a bit of a struggle for me to do. And because I think that's where I'm going to start personal growth.
Yeah, that makes so I understand. That makes a lot of sense. And you're kind of worried, like, if I put too much time into that, I might be kind of disappointed with. I might put in a lot of time. I might be disappointed with the results almost. Right.
And it's like, to me, it's like, am I getting to the root of the problem? If I know that I have body image issues, but is getting more shredded going to solve that? Probably not, because frankly, I have a physique right now that I shouldn't have a body image issue about.
Right.
I should be perfectly happy to take my shirt off. So the root of the problem is not my personal condition. It's something else.
Right.
And that's what I need to focus on. And I know it's really just like the alcoholic who says, well, I'll just stop drinking hard alcohol, drink beer. Yeah, that may solve some of the the external issues that you're seeing. You may not piss yourself. You may not get in bar fights as much, but you're not dealing with the root of the problem, and it's
Right.
the fact that you're drinking too much. So that's the way I look at it.
Where do you feel there's a hole in your game? Because it sounds like you like to do a lot of different things. You surf, do Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, you're lifting. Sounds like you're eating fairly healthy. Is there a hole somewhere that's holding you back from being able to just to be a little bit more comfortable, I guess?
It's self-love, really. I'm so ashamed of like the things I've done that
Right.
I think that and I'm playing armchair psychologist. But it's just not, I have no acceptance of who I really am, and I don't really love myself all that much,
Right. Do you think that has to do with maybe you're still kind of in search of something that you're not sure what it is, because you keep kind of you're poking around, right, in a lot of different spots?
Yeah, I mean, when I had my daughter, a lot changed, but I just love her so much, and I know it sounds it's trite, of course, everyone loves their kids, but I got super depressed when she was born because I loved her so much, and I thought that it was going to be this panacea that changed everything, and it didn't at all. And so it made me even more depressed. I got really concerningly depressed when my daughter was born, to the point that my wife forced me to see a different shrink,
right,
and forced me to start taking antidepressants again,
right.
And so I thought that I really was hedging all my bets that once I became a parent, everything was going to be fine, because I'd stop caring about my six pack. I'd stop, and nothing, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen, man.
Yeah, then you just have a whole nother stack of things to worry about on top of your own personal.
And
goals.
I've started to use my daughter like a drug, or it's like now I rely on her for my happiness, and it's unhealthy.
Right. I mention a lot on here that I always advise people, if you're having problems, like don't ever think about it in terms of just thinking that only you have to deal with it,
right.
or don't think of it's like just you and your wife, or you and your brother, or you and your friend. Go see somebody, and if that person sucks, go see somebody else. Like, just try it out, because you don't know what it could lead to. It could be life altering.
Absolutely, it could be life saving.
It could really save your life. Again, having that perspective, I've never really had. I've been like sad, right, and I've been like unmotivated, but depression is not really anything that I've ever really had to deal with, fortunately.
Right.
I would say that to coming off of stuff and having my daughter was probably the only time I ever experienced any of that, and it gave me a little insight into these are like. And I was able to sort it out, because it took me a minute, and I was like, why am I feeling this? And I was like, oh, okay, I've been off for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Hormones are changing a lot. But it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, like I'm only feeling a tiny pulse of what someone who's truly depressed feels every day.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine like what that's like to be. Some of my friends will tell me they're crippled, they're paralyzed, can't move, like they're stuck on the couch. They just can't. They don't even want to see anybody for that day.
I've not left my bed, out for break. And we're getting back to when I first got the ability to get on the air, and I found something that I love. That was the only thing that, no matter how bad it got, I wouldn't miss work. Because I started to rely on that, like, oh, this is going to be the thing that saves me. But I just was so laser focused that no matter how bad it got, I would always be able to pull myself out of bed and go to work. But there's certainly been times where it was debilitating. I could not get out of bed. I couldn't face the world.
Is it hard to talk for a living? Because like maybe not every day you want to talk.
It's hard to talk for a living when you get home, because imagine if you had to be like your wife and kids' personal trainer. You know what I'm saying? You're going to the gym, you're doing your thing, you're talking fitness all day, and then you have to go home and then turn that on again. When I'm talking on the radio all day and then do a TV show and then talk more, you got to realize I'm not necessarily, sometimes I am, but not necessarily talking to people I want to talk to or having a conversation I want to have. I'm doing it for the sake of entertainment. So then to go home to talk more and not be a complete dick, you not be that husband that just comes home and cracks open a bottle and it's like shuts himself off from his family. But I have to talk.
This is really valuable information you're releasing here, because that is a huge importance. People talk about trying to balance, right? And I always just tell people, hey man, I'm sorry, there's not a lot of balance,
Yeah.
Like it's just things are going to be unbalanced. But I think that it's okay in the dynamics of a family to say, here is where I'm at, and here is what I feel makes me happy. If I ever go too far outside of that, rein me back in. But you have to, it's not really making time. It's not just about making time, because you can be over there and be over here very quickly. It can take you 20 minutes. But what do you have to give?
Yeah.
When I go to Gold's Gym, I'm trying to leave behind like positive energy from anybody that I dealt with for today. Try to smile, even maybe I don't feel like smiling, but try to then they were going to remember like, oh yeah, his motherfucker's always smiling. I don't know why, but he's always happy. But you're trying to leave behind, a trail of positivity, right? Everywhere you go. And you're trying to kind of lift everybody up. But when you come home, if you're so fatigued, if you don't have the ability to do some of that, then that's where you got to figure out, okay, not only do I have to carve out some time with my family, with my kids, I need to cut out. You literally need to cut out some stuff.
Yeah.
So that you have the energy to put into that event. Absolutely.
That's incredibly good advice, man. Because you want to give it your all. You want to go balls to the wall all the time. But if you have to come home to lifelessness, then what's it worth? Far too many people don't value their home life enough. Guys, especially, they put their career ahead of everything to the point that they completely are blind to everything else.
Yeah.
And that's when you're on your deathbed, none of that shit's going to matter. None of it's going to matter that you were the top of your industry and that you had 11 vintage Maseratis. It's great. And if you can pull that off, I'm not hating by any stretch. But what I am saying is that if it comes at the compromise of your home life, it's not worth it.
And if you look at somebody like Gary Vee, who I've had the pleasure of meeting and podcast with and stuff like that, he's kind of said it's like a home arrangement that he has, with his wife, that he's just not there. And I'm just thinking, man, like, now maybe he has a plan of, hey, you know what, it's going to be this way for 5 years, it's going to be this way for 10 years or whatever. But still, you and I both know, I'm addicted to a bunch of things as well. You and I both know that it'll be hard for him to transition out of that and be like, yep, I'm done with all that business stuff. Now I'm moving over into this. And it's, as a kid, I felt like I always had everything I ever needed. We had good resources in terms of finances. We had a pool. We had like a little mini basketball court set up on our driveway. We had weights, like we had Olympic style weights. We had squat rack and stuff in our basement, in our garage. My dad did really, really well, but there was a point where my dad was working so much, my mom was like, hey, you're just not around.
Yeah. And
I was so young that I didn't really understand it all until I got a little older. Then I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. The picture is more clear. He's not around, and that's why we have a lot of this luxury. Right. But if he's still not around, he's still not around. It still sucks, right? It still hurts. It's still not the best scenario. So we were able to kind of do that. He was able to transition into kind of working more for himself. He was around more, and everything was fine. And I mean, he's both my parents, I'll always say that they were perfect. I mean, I can't imagine them doing anything better.
Right.
They always did a great job. Always did the best job they could with us. But those are the things that people I don't think are thinking about.
No, and you can't really think about it until you're placed in that position. There's no 19-year-old that's going to be listening to this thinking like, well, what do I care about when I have a kid? And it just doesn't apply. But once you're faced with it, you'll realize, very quickly, unless you're a sociopath, you just don't care,
What do you think? Everybody wants to be successful. There's kind of this motivational kick that's going on. You hear all these different things on YouTube and on social media in general. What do you think some people are maybe missing to try to be successful? What do you think people are or maybe missing out on in maybe their daily routine, or just, what's something that kind of like irks you when you hear some of these speeches? Or
to me, it's like a lot of this this success information that comes out. The problem is that you're listening to someone else's version of what it means to be successful, and that trying to achieve what someone else says or dictates to be successful is nonsense. You have to really work hard at figuring out what it means for you to be successful, because each person varies greatly. Like you and I pointed out, I mean, there's plenty of guys who they don't consider themselves successful unless they are number one, and if that means completely compromising their home life, so be it. And they're not going to be successful in anyone's eyes until they reach that pinnacle. To me, that's nonsense, man. If I could if I could put food on the table, and to the point that we really just don't worry about the bill collector coming by,
right?
And I have a lot of free time to spend with my child and my wife, like that. I don't need to be Howard Stern. I really don't. Be fucking awesome, and I look.
Is that a true statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel comfortable with that?
Oh yeah. But it took a long time for me to get to that position,
right?
And it took a long time of me faking it. Like I was like, no, I need to be. At the very least, I need to have my own show and be number one in the LA market. That was it. That was like, and I kept telling myself that. I would write it down. And if that's real. Like my friend, I have a friend, Jason Ellis, who hosts his own radio show, the Jason Ellis Show on Sirius XM. He's really driven to be the best radio personality out there. He wants to be Stern number 2, and it's real for him. That's his version of success,
and everything he does lines up with that.
Yeah, he works his ass off, and he did. And it took a long time for me to get to the awareness that that's really not who I am. Like to me, I've already hit a level of success that far exceeds what I could ever have dreamed of. So there's a lot of resting on my laurels in some ways, but figuring out a way. I don't need to be on the greatest TV show, the highest rated TV show. Like the fact that people pay me to talk, I'm already like. At the gold mine.
Yeah.
At the gold mine. People pay me to talk, and I work on a long day, 5 hours a day. It's like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Success.
A lot of people don't understand that, success is something that you attract. The more that you chase after it, a lot of times, the more that it wants to dodge you, the more it wants to move away from you.
Right.
It's almost like chasing after a pretty woman.
Yeah.
You overdo it. You come on too strong and too thick in the beginning, and they run away, right?
Yep. That's a great point. And I don't want it to sound like I'm talking down on ambition.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying by any stretch of the imagination. If in fact, recognize how short life is. People always say, "Oh, life is short." No, seriously, take that into consideration. And every moment that you could be doing something to help live your dream is a moment that's lost if you're not, going to get up off your ass and go for it.
Right.
But at the same time, like really analyze what success means for you, because I love Gary Vee too, and I love all these motivational speakers. But you remember, you're listening to someone else's version of success, and that's not the way things go. I mean, look at your brother and you. Both wildly successful guys.
Right.
Completely different versions of what it means to be successful.
Right. And my brother, he and I have different personality traits. I think that when I was in the middle of my powerlifting career and I didn't have finances, I didn't really have much of a job, period. Mm-hmm. I was very happy. But my brother's idea of being happy, and he thinks the thing that will fulfill him is more money. And I'm trying to, continue to communicate with him on that. Like, that will help, and you will be happier because there's more convenience sometimes that can come from all that. But my brother's just a great person.
Yeah.
He's a great storyteller. He's a good friend. I mean, you see him all the time.
He's
probably
awesome.
Over at Gold's. Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah. He's a lot of fun to be around. And he doesn't, back to what we were saying before we hopped on the podcast about that Mr. Rogers documentary, you don't have to do anything spectacular to be loved. And I think that people always think that they do.
Yeah.
Like, when I make this money, I'm going to buy this car, and everyone's going to think I'm a badass motherfucker.
Yep. Yep. And
no one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares.
No, and dude, you already talked about doing something spectacular, but it's overlooked. You said, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to have a smile on my face, and I'm going to try to give positivity to every single person I contact with. That's something spectacular.
And it's free.
It's not making millions of dollars. It's not running for office. It's not being the titan of your industry. It's something spectacular that far too many people look at as being insignificant. But you're doing something spectacular every single day of your life when you do that,
right. And even just the consistency, just being that guy that shows up on time, being that guy that's ready to work hard. How did this Access Hollywood role come to be? Whose balls did you lick for this
Once
job?
I started getting on TV,
be honest.
Once I started getting on TV, you like, if you can prove to be someone that really is a joy to work with, and like you said, shows up early and doesn't bitch and moan, you'd be surprised how much you can dovetail off into other TV. And that's kind of the cool and negative part about TV. I mean, I could give you the positive of it is, like, I got this gig where there's nothing secure about it, but I get to fill in and do a lot of Access Hollywood simply because people that worked on other shows that I was on, now they got shit canned from their job someplace, and now they're working at NBC daytime, right. So they got to know me, blah blah blah. There's the positive of people constantly moving around, and the turnover in television is tremendous. The negative comes from, like, there was a time and a place where they were going to add a male co-host to The View. That was going to be me. They were flying me out to New York City all the time to do all these test runs and shows, and I'm filming with all the girls of The View and everything. And it's happening. I'm going to get a job, and it's going to be millions of dollars, and I'm going to move to New York City, and I'm like, this is it. Every single person, from the person that would book my plane tickets all the way up to the president of daytime at ABC, got fired. Every single person in that chain got fired, and that was the end of my...
You're like, I'm like, Catherwood, I got a job. And they're like, no, you don't, not anymore.
No, seriously, that's what happened. Like, my agent would go to make arrangements, and they'd be like, we completely unaware of what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's gone. So, and all the thoughts of that person are gone because we fired everybody that was in the chain of command of even hiring him.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, this new kind of administration.
Right.
They're like, a male co-host. Stupid.
Yeah,
that's
dumb.
Insane. So that's the negative of the turnover rate in television. But the positive is that I end up doing all these crazy gigs, and I just had a meeting last week about a potential new one and stuff. So it's nice that you're
this time maybe you'll be a little bit more relaxed and wait.
Yeah,
right before you get
no stability though. Don't get into this industry if you want stability. Which sucks. Because my wife's an actress as well.
Don't cash those checks until you get them, right?
Yeah, my wife's an actress as well. So we have a bit of an unnerving inability to be.
Let's pause on this for just a second. I gotta pee.
Do it.
I don't know if you need to too, but all right. We're all good.
Yeah.
So you're saying your wife is an actress?
Yeah. So we have a bit of an unnerving lack of stability, but. When it's good, it's good. When it's good, it's great. My wife was on 2 network sitcoms, so when it's hitting, it's like nothing else. But it's tough because you never know when that next gig's gonna be. And I have to watch. I get a little bit less of the frustrations actors, man, there's a reason why they get paid so much. And it's because of all the bullshit they have to go through. It's horrible. It's horrible. I honestly, auditioning and schmoozing just to have people tell you you're too old, you're too ugly, you're too tall. I mean, it's that bad. It is that shit. It's the most callous industry that's just devoid of any type of sentimentality.
Some of this stuff's pretty amazing, though. If you nail the right gig at the right time,
it's crazy.
Then you could be off to the races, right?
My wife was on a network sitcom, Rules of Engagement, for 7 seasons, and it was just like, show up, table read on Monday, film on Tuesday, just kind of press repeat, do it again. You get like 6 months off while you're not filming. And
look at someone like Dave Bautista.
Oh yeah,
he really stepped into the limelight. There's always he had a long bodybuilding career before he ever got into pro wrestling. And obviously he had what it takes to make it in pro wrestling. And so that lined him up well for everything. But man, like what some, outstanding things that he lined himself up with.
Well, and he's got talent that,
right.
You can't take that away from him. That's
he's got
the crucial factor.
Comedic timing.
It's a crucial factor. I mean, he's great. You watch those Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He's great. So it's a tough, Corolla always talks about that as like, hard work and living out your dreams are great. But if you don't have what it takes to have that dream, someone needs to sit you down and let you know. Far too many people are like, anything's possible, man. Anything's possible if you put your mind to it.
The guy next to you can do it. Yeah. The guy next to him can do it.
Trust me, I could not be on the Lakers, no matter how much I wanted it, and someone would need to sit me down and say, like, this is just not, you don't hedge your bets on.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. And far too many people in the entertainment industry, I think, are under the same delusion. Like they're going to, and it's like, you're not going to be Scarlett Johansson. It's not going to happen.
What are some things you're doing in your life to try to get some balance with your daughter, with your wife, with her acting career, with your career? You guys have a day where it's like, hey, Sunday we're just doing this. You guys have a time where you're like, hey, let's put the cell phones away. Anything going on like that?
Meditation's huge. I meditate twice a day, 20 minutes at a time, every single day.
How long have you been doing that for?
I've been dabbling in meditation for probably a decade, but I've been serious about it for about a year. I started working.
It's hard to even get a lock on it.
Yeah.
Because I've tried and I'm like, I'm so distracted.
It's true. And I finally I had the discipline to just say, no, this is it. And I really stuck with it.
What does your meditation look like?
I have a mantra.
You're naked, okay? I'm listening.
I'm nude. I make a pube joint. And I shave my own pubes and I smoke a pube joint.
Wow.
No, I have a mantra that I internally kind of go back to over and over, and I just try to focus on that. And my eyes closed, 20 minutes.
Music?
No.
Nothing.
I always just try to find a nice, quiet place and just me and my mantra. I started working at Transcendental Meditation. That like about a year ago. I actually got a focused system for meditation,
right.
And that's where I
you read a book or something, or you?
No, I just went online and saw Transcendental Meditation. I had too many people, like really people that I respected. Far too many people tell me like that was what they did. Steve-O and Seinfeld, and the list goes on and on and on. Seinfeld didn't directly tell me that, but I heard him talk about how important Transcendental Meditation is, and David Lynch. And
the hell's Steve-O up to?
Steve-O is, first off, in the best shape of his life.
Jacked and tan?
He is jacked and tan. He is filming a new show that I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to like elaborate about, but just know he's filming a new show and it's going to be awesome. He films another game show. He's a host of a game show in the UK. Life is very good for Steve-O. He's about to get married. Life is very, very good for him.
That's pretty cool.
But meditation's huge for me. Yeah. And then, you actually mentioned disconnecting. Really making a concerted effort for a certain amount of time. No phone, no Netflix, no. I can't look over, read the paper. Just I turn it off, put it away.
You and your wife, no industry talk.
Yeah,
right.
Just nothing.
Let's not even talk about that.
Yeah, and that's not to say that like some mindless bullshit time isn't important too. We want to make sure we get at least a couple hours a week of like, hey, let's hold hands and watch some Netflix. And
are you guys fans of movies and TV shows and stuff?
Yeah, big into it.
What are some shows you guys watch?
Like at the top of the list for me, Ozarks, Mindhunter.
Ozarks, I've heard nothing but good things about. I have to check it out.
You gotta watch it, dude. It's so good. It's so good.
I like Goliath a lot. Have you ever seen that?
I have.
I like that a lot. I like Billy Bob Thornton a lot.
He's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
He's pretty sweet. He's a kooky dude.
He seems like it.
He's a very kooky dude.
He seems like he's
a very hard interview because he's that kooky. But Goliath is dope.
Some of these guys, they don't want to be interviewed, right? Like they,
absolutely not.
Do you think they like somewhat halfway want to be interviewed, or do you think they just totally don't want to be interviewed at all?
No, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it, and they don't think it's part of their job, and they're just not happy to do it.
I guess each person, like as you were mentioning earlier, each person has their own definition of success, and somebody like The Rock, who, I mean, he may not give you an interview, but he almost doesn't need to because he's on social media so much.
Oh, he will give you an interview,
and
he loves it. I think he's addicted to being liked,
right?
And he's good at it, man.
Yeah.
He's fucking good at it. He's really good at being the perfect celebrity.
Right.
There's people. Yeah, The Rock clearly loves it.
It's amazing how that's launched his career because he was already doing well, but I think that Instagram was a real game changer for him.
Yeah.
When you go and look back at it, it was clearly Instagram. I mean, obviously he's got the work behind him.
Yeah.
He's got all the.
He's got ability. He's got talent. He's got the looks.
Yeah.
But some people do not want to be a big A-list celebrity. The Rock loves it.
Right.
And listen, it makes you want to root for him a lot more.
Right.
There's some crabby, crusty people out there in Hollywood, and it's like, fuck them. It's nice to see a good guy.
Even with Skyscraper, it's not doing great in the box office. But when you ask people about, hey, what'd you think of it? They bite their tongue. They have a hard time knocking it down because, like you said, everybody loves The Rock.
I remember there was a review of one of the Foo Fighters albums where they said it's hard not to give it at least 3 stars because everybody loves Dave Grohl. And it's true. Like, he's just such a nice guy. You want to root for him. It's hard to shit on, even on the work. You can't separate it because he's such a nice guy.
How do you balance out the different careers? So your wife needs to go somewhere and be on a show for a little while, and then you got your daughter and you got your own things going on.
It's tough. I mean, you gotta really plan. You gotta plan,
right.
And we have help. When my wife's filming, we definitely have we have to find a nanny or something, because if I'm gonna be at work and she's gonna be on set, it's just unhealthy,
right,
to try to bring a kid along or something like that. But on top of that too, the great thing about having a spouse in the entertainment industry is that we both understand each other. There's no misunderstanding that the industry is callous and doesn't care about our feelings, so we have to really care about each other's. I
saw you just a couple days ago over at Gold's Gym, and that's your stomping grounds. That's where you train.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what that's like for you.
It's really nice for me. I mean, I live in Venice, so a lot of people make the patronage to Venice Gold's because it's the Mecca. I live down the street, and it's just part of the culture.
Cruise your bike over there or something? You're super close.
Ride my bike almost every day. Like if I'm going to train, I never drive. It's very cool for me. Even if you don't want to be a bodybuilder, it's incredibly motivating, I think, to see people who are that disciplined and that hardworking right next to you. I don't look at it as something that's intimidating. I don't look at it as something of envy when I see these guys with these physiques. I look at it as something, to me, that's motivating,
There's a ton of energy in there. And when you look at the different guys and girls in there, the shape that people are in, you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
You don't see that in normal everyday life. No. But inside of this factory, this like giant ass gym that, I don't know, must be 60,000 square feet, or I don't know.
It's big. With big outdoor arena and everything, and posing room.
Yeah, it's enormous. It's got 3 giant rooms of equipment. It has every piece of equipment you could possibly imagine, and every possible thing you can think of.
If Arnold works out there, that's all I needed to know.
Yeah, Arnold's there all the time.
I know, it's awesome.
He's actually training
and talking. That's another guy. He's like old school Rock. He loves it. He'll give you an interview.
Yeah.
He'll sit down with you. He'll talk to you. He's talked to me at the gym. Just talk to me.
That's great.
Those squats are great. Looks great. And I was like, what?
And you can't.
Whoa, fuck.
You can't stop thinking this is Arnold.
Yeah. It's the craziest stuff ever.
Somebody I'm a huge fan of is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He's a good dude.
And I can't. When I'm looking at him, I'm just thinking he's going to give me a stunner.
Yeah.
He's going to give me a Stone Cold stunner. He's going to kick me in the stomach, and he's going to...
I don't know if in his physical condition now he can pull off a stunner on a guy your size.
Yeah, it would be harder. But you just, you know, sometimes when you look at these people and you look at Arnold, you can't help but think of all the movies and all the great things he's done in bodybuilding. It gets you fired up.
Everyone loves to talk shit like, oh, I wouldn't get starstruck. There's certain people where it's impossible not to, man. Arnold's up there too. Yeah, Arnold is like, it's impossible not to get starstruck.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was there, and I saw Arnold walk in earlier, and I'm working out, and he's around the gym somewhere. 15, 20 minutes later, Stallone cruises in. I'm like, oh, it's going to happen. Dude, it's going to happen.
It's on.
9-year-old Mike is going to have his dream come true, and sure enough, I see them lock eyes from across the gym. I'm like, oh, here it comes. And they walk in and they hug and everything. Woo! It was so awesome. It was
Neither one of them can understand what the other one's saying.
Just zero intelligibility.
As a crazy gym, has any business happened for you from that gym? Because there are so many kind of celebrities and directors and actors and things.
No,
there.
but I've definitely talked business there. Harvey Levin from TMZ works out there a lot. And,
I saw him the other day. Yeah,
he's we'll talk shop. You know, as silly as that sounds. You know, you see him around the gym. But I will like. There's a really weird thing that'll happen where sometimes I'll be on TV shows and like it'll be on the camera or on the TV in like the cardio area.
You're like, oh.
And I'm there working out. I'm like, oh, come on, this is so weird. You know. Or like I remember during Dancing with the Stars, like Tito and other people, the day after the show, I'd come in and they're like, "You go, hey, come here, I got to talk to you about this." You know, that's a strange thing. You know, when you're on something so popular,
right,
that people want to talk to you.
What's it like, kind of getting recognized on the street? Because I'd imagine when you're behind the microphone and there's not a camera, that must have been a little different as opposed to now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I'm very lucky that whenever I get recognized, everyone's super nice. I've never had a bad interaction. So to me, it's
like, hey, there's Psycho Mike. He's an asshole. And they try to punch you.
But I'll tell you, you never get used to people recognizing you by your voice. That is so strange. I still do. Huh? I was at 7-Eleven the other day. I was buying a Bang energy drink, and
those are delicious, by the way.
So delicious. I might have one after the show. And I go up to the counter, and the guy's like $10. I was like, "Oh man, here you go," and whatever it was. And I was like, "So how's your day going, man?" He's like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm good." He goes, "You are on the radio, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" He's like, "I recognize your voice."
Oh, that's great.
And it's just like so strange that because someone recognizing you by face is. You kind of understand that. I can still not wrap my head around someone recognizing my voice.
What's the food like for you? What's the diet like?
I eat 2, maybe 3 times a day. I like intermittent fasting. I know it's very trendy and stuff, but I've been following like Martin Burkhan, the 16/8 intermittent fast for years. And it just worked well for me. Sustainability and my lifestyle, it fits. I will have protein at every meal, but like usually I'll have a fruit-based carb meal and then a starch-based carb meal, and then my nighttime meal is almost always just protein and veggies.
So 2 or 3 meals, and you're just eating that 8-hour window or so.
Yeah, right in those. You know,
pretty simple.
Usually eat around noon, maybe 3 or 4, and then 7 or 8. You know, something like that.
I mean, it sounds so reasonable.
Yeah,
right. It cuts out a lot of the junk.
And it does, and it's like no snacking. Just I know I'm gonna have my meals, and I count on that. And I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble with their leptin and everything. It's like I don't expect everyone to eat 2 or 3 meals, but the constant snacking that I think that really screws people up, man.
Being on these sets, these TV sets and movie sets and stuff. I mean, it must be some awesome food around.
It's amazing. Yeah, that I wish to go visit my wife at the set. It's crazy. I mean, radio, you don't have to worry about it. No one cares about radio. You can't even get a bagel at a radio station. But
man, craft services on these TV shows and these movies is like, oh my God. It's just everything you could dream of. But at the same time, it's everything you could dream of that's healthy too. There's tons of egg
and that's what I think people need to
and
focus on too is treat yourself a little bit better. You know, like don't okay, you want to have the snack or the dessert, like, and it's on occasion, but it's not the majority of the time. You know.
Yeah, that's another thing I've gotten. I feel like a healthier grip on things. Is that dude? If I'm going out for pizza with my family, I'll have some pizza.
Yeah,
it's not frequent, but I'll have some pizza. A couple nights ago, we went to dinner and we were riding our bikes. We stopped at the ice cream store because my daughter wanted ice cream. I had some ice cream. It's not very frequent, but it used to be, it was like all or nothing. I was eating like I was in a bodybuilding show, and that was just for my life. And that's no way to live, you know?
Right.
Now, if you're in a show, it's one thing. It's a whole different thing. But
what's coming up next for you?
I don't know. It's kind of exciting. I don't really know, but it's also a little bit daunting.
Yeah.
I've taken a step back from radio. I only do radio once a week now. So, and that's really weird because I've devoted my entire adult life to doing radio, usually numerous times a day. For most of my career, I was doing 2 radio shows at a time, all the time. So I've really taken a step back from radio and opened my doors up to the idea. I was reluctant for so long. The punk rock side of me was like, I'm not some polished TV guy. Screw that.
Right.
And now I've kind of given up on that and circling back to that self-awareness stuff we were talking about. It's like, no, stop being macho. Stop trying to put on this pretentious front that you're some tough guy. And it's like, no, I'm going to open up the doors to.
Well, the things we sometimes forget too is people don't know your story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they see you and they take you at face value of the way that you treat them and the way that you act. And they might not know the history of the drug abuse and the different things you overcame. So people, they really don't care. And I think that our perception always is so wrapped around what we think other people, what we envision that other people think we are.
Right.
Which is just not even a true thing. It's just, it's fake. It's like you made it up. Like, I'm a drug addict. It's like, no one thinks of you that way. Yeah. You're not. You were. You have found a way to get past it, even though there's still addict mentality, right? Some people say you're kind of attached to it for life. But when you meet people, you're getting a clean slate.
Yep.
Right? Every single time. And I think that's something that's important to remember. My dad has always said, part of knowing who you are is knowing who you're not. And that has always kind of helped me help identify myself better, because I don't really need to know exactly who I am, but I just need to know who I'm not.
Right.
It's a little easier to pick out.
Absolutely. It's great advice.
Yeah. I'm not like a cyclist. I'm not a beach volleyball player. I'm not that guy. And it's fine to not be those things. But to really try to identify, I'm this TV personality, and then I'm going to, I'll be on TV and someone's going to notice me and I'm going to be in a movie. Like, it's hard to play those things out. Right. It's hard to make sense of that.
Well,
shit.
and I had to come to the realization, recognize what I'm not. I'm not some against the grain, nonconformist, tough talking badass guy. Like, I am kind of a polished broadcaster, and if people want to pay me to be on TV and host things, I should embrace that, and that I think for far too long I was falling back onto the same trappings that I was getting into in high school of I don't want to be in the school play because that all the tough guys will make fun of me, and I'm going to be 40 years old. I should just stop with all that.
Going to train biceps and triceps tomorrow at 4 a.m. You in?
Oh, no.
Where can people find you?
At Mike Catherwood, Instagram and Twitter, and then also the Swole Patrol podcast.
Yeah.
If you are in the mood for entertainment and with health and fitness,
Swole Patrol,
all peppered in. Dr. Drew and I.
You wrote a song for me and everything. That was amazing.
Every single episode, new intro. You can count on that. If nothing else, you can subscribe.
That was amazing. That was my favorite part.
Thank you.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, my man.
Thank you, dude. That was fun.